Hello everyone, it's Catherine here, bringing you the Book of Ruth. But before we go into the Book of Ruth, let us go through the books before the Book of Ruth. So can we remember? It's Genesis, the beginning. Exodus, they are leaving. Leviticus, God is leading. Numbers, God is counting. Deuteronomy, God's repeating the law. Then remember, with Joshua, we entered the promised land. And with Joshua, there were spies. They were victorious and the walls were falling. So we go Joshua. Then after Joshua, we had Judges, the cycle of Judges, where the Israelites repented, the judge, after judge came, and then they had the cycle of sinning again, worshipping false gods. The judge came to bring the law, put it right, repentance, and then the cycle started again. So we're in the book of Judges. We're just coming out of the book of Judges, where there's been famine, and there's been lots of things scattering of people. The people have been sinning, worshipping false gods, famine. So there's all this unsettling situation. And then the people in Bethlehem are facing famine. There's no food growing. They can't eat. And this is the space and time where we discover the story of Ruth. So now we're going to go into the book of Ruth. And in Sunday school, they've already covered chapter 1 and chapter 2. And today we're going to this week we're covering chapter 3 and 4 to just bring everything together. Okay? But what did we learn about in Genesis? Well, not Genesis, in Ruth chapter 1. So in Ruth chapter 1, those are the days of the judges. It was dark. They had to, Naomi and her husband, they left Bethlehem with their 2 sons because it was famine and there was nothing to eat. So they thought, well, the best thing is to go somewhere else where they could possibly grow food. So they went to Moab. But sometimes in life, we can also do that. We can think, well, things are going so bad here. Let's go somewhere else. Or let's move away so that we can go to a better place. And sometimes the grass isn't greener on the other side. So they went to Moab, and it wasn't so easy. They might have had food, but Naomi's husband Elimelech died, and then she had 2 sons, and they married Moabite women because that's where they were living. But the Moabites didn't worship God or didn't know God. Only Naomi and her husband, who'd passed away, knew about God and had brought the teachings in their minds and hearts. But then the 2 sons died. So then Naomi was left with 2 daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth. And then she said to them, I've lost everything. I'm going back to Bethlehem. What have I got to lose? I'm going back to Bethlehem. I've heard that there's fruit or food growing again. And so she said, I'm going back. And then her daughters-in-law were trying to follow. And she said, I can't offer you another son. I'm old. You'll be a widow all your life. You need to marry again. So Orpah decided to return to her family in Moab. But Ruth said, no, your people will be my people, your God, my God. So she'd come to know the Yahweh God of Naomi. And she decided she's going to leave everything. Even if she's the widow for the rest of her life, she's going to be loyal to her mother-in-law. And so off she goes back to Bethlehem. Of course, Naomi changes her name to Mara. She says it's been a terrible time, all sadness and weeping. And they come back to nothing. They come back to the house that was there, but the house didn't have anything. There was no food. They had to start all over again. So Ruth was loyal to Naomi. That's the theme, loyal, faithful to Naomi, even though she wasn't going to get anything out of it. So first thing, Ruth decides to go to any field to get grain, any grain that drops from what people are harvesting. It's called gleaning. And in the Bible, it says that if you're following God, if you have poor people on the outskirts of your land who are gleaning, you should drop a few more grains so that they have enough to eat. And Boaz, who was loyal and faithful to God, was faithful to his word and told his workers to let a bit of grain drop more than normal because he saw Ruth was collecting. And he watched Ruth and he thought, wow, she's been faithful to Naomi, her mother-in-law. She's been loyal to her. Now Boaz is going to be loyal to Ruth for her loyalty. And it's amazing, through the whole book of Ruth, we think about God, we think about his provision and how he's in control of the whole situation, but God is actually not mentioned. But God is in control. And it's amazing because Naomi has got no children now, no one to continue the family line. But Boaz comes and they find favor with Boaz and they find favor with God. And then Naomi finds out, oh wow, Boaz is actually a distant relation from us, and he can be our redeemer, our rescuer, to rescue our family. So in the Bible times and the tradition, if there was a family relation, he could marry the widow of someone in his family to continue their family line. And Boaz, to cut a long story short, there was another kinsman redeemer, but Boaz became that rescuer and redeemer. And Ruth, when she came to him and said, would you be my redeemer? Would you be my rescuer? He said yes. And he made a plan. And he became her rescuer, her redeemer. And then God blessed them and they got married. And she had a little boy. And that little boy became the grandfather of King David. And King David had children. And that became the family line of Jesus. And it's amazing, God's rescue plan and how he's in control of everything, and how he made a plan for Naomi, and he made a plan for Ruth, and he made a plan for Boaz because he wasn't married yet, but he was faithful to God, and God provided him a wife and then children. So it's amazing through the story as we see God's provision. And I just want us to think, as it's a great story to prepare for the time of Passover, the time of when we remember that Jesus, God sent his only son to die for all of us on the cross because he's our ultimate rescuer. We can't save ourselves no matter what we do, but the perfect, spotless Jesus Christ who never sinned is our Passover lamb. And he died on the cross for us so that we don't have to fear death, and we don't have to fear anything. We just have to trust and believe in him and have faith in him. So this is our story that we're going to be doing tomorrow, and I'm excited to share this exciting story with the children. And if you aren't able to make Sunday school, you can watch this video, and I will also be sharing some other videos on the Sunday school group with some songs that will be a blessing for this lesson. So just remember, God is your redeemer, Jesus Christ is your rescuer, and you just have to run into his arms, and he's faithful. God bless you.